Thanks for the intro. Howdy, everyone. Feels good to be back in Aggie land. It's been, I don't know, probably like 5 years since I've been back here. It's been a while. But I'm really thankful and glad for the opportunity to be here and talk with you all and share a little bit about my journey. So yeah, I'll just get straight into it. And um, I will point out the title of my presentation. I put a lot of thought into it, and it's really ties in the whole message of what I'm going to share with you guys. So it's cultivating curiosity and creating a path for lifelong learning. Okay. So about me, I'm a native Houstonian, second generation Aggie. I graduated in 2018 with a degree in food science and technology, and also a minor in horticulture and enology certificate. Um, Currently, I'm the winemaker at Uplift Vineyard in Burnett, Texas, founder of Explore Oeno, and co-founder and director of Grafted, and lover of all things related to wine, food, and travel. So uh, from the very beginning, I made it a point to discover my interests and find a way that I could work my interests and passions into my work. Um, and you'll get to learn a little bit about that as I go through my presentation. But before I dive into that, I wanted to share two promises that I made to myself in college. I'm fortunate that early on I figured out these things, and one of them was to choose a career that I would really enjoy, and also to choose a career where I could always be learning something new. So with that, I have a timeline of events here, and we don't have, I will go through these as we flip through the pictures and stuff. But from start to finish, that's an 8-year period. So I've done various things over the years, and again, was with the purpose and intention of incorporating my passions and interests into my work. And so the very first one that I did was a food and wine study abroad in Italy after my sophomore year here as a student. I know Dr. B organizes that now, and if you're interested, I would highly recommend talking to her so you could have a similar experience. Um, but yeah, so whenever I started in food science, I really became interested in fermentation. That was kind of the topic that hooked me. And so throughout my studies, I was weighing my options and discovering options within fermentation that I could pursue as a career. And so whenever I participated in the study abroad, I got to see a lot of wine production behind the scenes and learn more about growing grapes and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, after I completed that trip, I decided that I wanted to pursue wine as a career. And so I came home and sat my parents down, and I told them that I wanted to add a horticulture minor to my degree so that I could take all the wine classes here at A&M. So getting into that, so these pictures here on the bottom left, those are me in Italy during my study abroad program. Again, this was a way to incorporate my passions and interests into my work. And at the time, it was coursework. You know, I was a student, so I pursued the study abroad program. I pursued courses that fit into what I was interested in. And these pictures more here on the right, those were from the summer following. And so after the Italy study abroad, I then interned at Hilmar Cheese Company in Hilmar, California. So I knew I wanted to pursue wine, but I had never really done manual labor. And so I was like, let's make sure we have a plan B just in case this doesn't work out. And so that was what I did there. So yeah, I went to California. I interned at a cheese company. I had a great time. I learned a lot. Um, Cheese, of course, fits into fermentation. And yeah, I had a summer-long project. This picture here of me with the group there, that's at the IFT conference. And so that's an organization, a food science organization, and I got a scholarship through the organization. And part of the scholarship award was to attend the the conference and trade show. That year it happened to be in Vegas and I was in California, so it was just a quick flight over. But that was a really cool experience and a way for me to network and kind of immerse myself in, I guess, the food science industry, so to speak. And attending the trade show as a college student was a pretty like eye-opening and really valuable experience for me. And then again, back to the wine thing, the picture of me there in the vineyard, that was um, me in in one of the UC Davis teaching vineyards, which at the time I thought was just the coolest thing ever, to get to go and visit. And in addition to the work that I did at Hillmar, I equally enjoyed myself and planned trips around California every weekend with my coworkers and really made the most of both of these experiences. And then I had to throw in the Aggie football photo at the bottom because that was my last game as a student, and it was the LSU 7 overtime game, which is definitely not one to forget. And I rarely stayed at through the entire game, and that one was 100% worth it. So moving into well, still a college student, but more into my wine journey. So this picture here at the top left is me as an intern at William Chris amongst the barrels, and that room that I'm standing in there is totally different now. The winery has seen a lot of growth over the years, which I'm fortunate to have been a part of. And so, yeah, that was just me not knowing anything and trying to learn as much as I could. And then at the end of that internship, I was offered a full-time position and I said yes, but, and my condition was that I wanted to go and do a harvest abroad somewhere. So a lot of young winemakers do what is called harvest hopping, where you jump between hemispheres and you can do multiple harvests in a year. So that internship was summer of 2018. So I then graduated in December of 2018. And then in March of 2019, I went to New Zealand. I went down south to Marlborough, and I was an intern at Morisco Vineyards. So there I was one of about 25 interns, half on day shift, half on night shift. I was on the night shift in the cellar, and I purposely chose the cellar because I wanted to be out of my comfort zone. So had I chose to be a lab intern, that would have been a lot more in my comfort zone. But I chose the cellar, and that was definitely the right decision. I gained a lot of experience and gained a lot of confidence in my abilities in the cellar. And being that Morisco is a much larger winery than where I work here in Texas, it was a great way for me to build that confidence and get that experience. And so the second picture there, how does this little thing work? Oh, that one. So the whole season I was racking. So racking is taking the clear juice or the wine off of the lees, which is all the sediment at the bottom. And so all of that mucky stuff on the door there, that's the lees. And pretty much every day I came home covered in lees. Um, that was, yeah, the tank that I'm hugging there, that was like one of the smaller ones. So this is a view of the cellar here. And so, yeah, totally different experience from what I was getting in Texas. And again, super valuable. I met a ton of people. I had the best time. These were my housemates. We had 26 people living in the house, and it was as much fun and as chaotic as you would imagine. Um, exactly, yeah. Yeah, and half the people were on day shift and half were on night shift. So as soon as one group of people is getting home and ready for bed, the other people are just getting started. Um, so that was in 2019 in March through May, and then I came back to Texas for harvest, and I didn't have enough of New Zealand, and I still had my visa available to me. So after harvest in Texas, I made the decision to go back. This time I had originally planned to go for 2 to 3 years harvest hopping and going to different locations and stuff. But I went back to New Zealand just simply to finish up my harvest. Finish up my visa. And so, yeah, the next time that I went, I did a bit more traveling. I had another position with Morisco again the second time, this time in the lab. And so before I went to Morisco, I went to Waiheke Island up here. Um, that's an island just off of Auckland in the North Island. And I worked in a vineyard for about a month just to kill time and do something different. And then I came back down south to Morisco, and this is one of our pictures from the lab. So yeah, did all the lab duties. At this time, COVID had hit. So work-wise and from a social perspective, these experiences were totally different. I went from having 25 roommates to only two, and those were the only two people that I could hang out with and whatnot. And so, yeah, totally different. But again, it was very valuable experience. I really learned a lot. Um, our lab supervisor was high risk, so she was not there the whole time. It was myself and the other permanent lab tech, and we went 7 days for a month, 12 hours, because there was no one else to help us, and there was no lab night shift, so we had to get everything done in those periods. It was the best and the worst all at the same time. But again, super valuable. I learned a lot, and I was getting to develop myself in a really cool environment. So, all that to say, the wine thing eventually worked out, and so these photos bring us up to more present day. Um, So whenever I came back from New Zealand the second time, I rejoined the team at William Chris as the assistant winemaker. And then about a year and a half after that, the company purchased the Uplift Vineyard. And so when that vineyard purchase happened, our owners decided that they wanted to launch Uplift as its own brand. And so among a pool of candidates, I was selected to take on that position as the winemaker for Uplift. And it was a fairly seamless transition, being that I already worked for the company. I already knew the style, the way we did things, what they were after and stuff like that. And so that was a great opportunity for me, still is. Um, Again, I'm learning so much. Remember, I always wanted to be learning something new. I'm definitely always learning something new. There's always new challenges, especially with growing grapes in Texas and trying to navigate all of that. But with all the learning and development, there's also a lot of perks. So I get to attend a lot of cool events. I get to do cool stuff like this. I get to learn from growers and other winemakers. Every season presents new learning opportunities to me. Um, and in addition to that, I also run the lab that services all of our brands in the company. And my good friend Julia here in the front, she was our intern a couple years ago. Yeah, so this picture here was my fun little research project that I came up with, and Julia got to execute most of it. It was good prep for her master's program here. Yeah. Yeah, we were doing a lot of berry sensory, and yeah, that was a fun time. Um, and then this picture over here is a pretty big deal for us. So at the end of last year, we had two critics come out. So Jim Gordon, who is the executive editor at James Suckling, came out, and that's actually him there and that guy next to me. He came out, and also Jonathan Cristaldi came out, and this was in November, and they tasted over 250 100% Texas wines, and both produced reports out of it and a lot of scores. So as an industry, we received multiple 90 plus point scores, and also at Uplift received multiple 90 plus point scores. So that was great recognition for us, and another step for us in becoming recognized as a global globally recognized wine region. So yes, lots going on. These photos here are from two of my most recent projects, both of which started within the last year or so. So these top photos are from my trip with Explore Oeno. So Explore Oeno is, I guess, my personal brand and where I share my experiences in the wine industry. I share what I'm up to with Uplift and, whatever else. And then also through Explore Oeno, I co-host wine and food tours. So Doug and Erica are the couple that organized the study abroad program for me, and I now partner with them to bring consumers and wine club members to do a similar type tour with them, more wine focused and obviously not 5 weeks long, but equally as fun, equally as interesting, and we get to do and see a lot of cool things. And who doesn't want to go to Italy every year? So yeah, that was an easy yes when they asked me if I wanted to partner. And these two photos here, so this one was me during my study abroad, and then this last year we went back to the same cheese producer, and I got a photo with the same lady, and this time her daughter. And then these photos here at the bottom, so these are me at the first two Grafted events that we've hosted. So Grafted is an organization that I've co-founded and am the director of. And so we are focused on personal and professional development for women in the wine industry. We focus on empowerment, education, equity, and engagement. So you can find those 4 pillars at the core of all of our programs. So we host 2 in-person events per year, one in January and one in June. They're designed to bring the community together and, again, highlight the 4 pillars that we operate under. But for each of our events, we have a speaker, we have some educational and reflective exercises to do both individually and as a group. It's fun. It's not like the doom of a group project or anything like that. And then at the end, we finish with a networking happy hour. So we have wine, we have food, everyone's mingling and talking to each other. And typically during the happy hour, we also have some kind of fun educational exercise. So at our last event, we had a a blind tasting roulette game. And so you could bet on like the various characteristics of the wine, and we had prizes. And I say it's fun, it's actually a lot of fun. Ask someone who's been. It really is a lot of fun, and we're packing a lot of content in because we know how hard it is for people to clear their schedules and come to things like that. So we're always designing these events to make it worth your time, make it worth your money. And we've when we were originally building the organization, we were in designing the events, we made it a point to design them in a way that people wanted to come to them, not that they signed up and then remembered and were like, oh, I have to go to this. So it's fun, just trust me. And so with all of that, all of this has been over an 8-year period, and it's all really the condensed version. And so in going over these things, it can maybe seem like a lot or scary, or, well, she did that, but I can't do that. Or yeah, maybe it's out of your comfort zone or whatever. But as I was figuring out how do I wrap this up and how do I give someone something to take away, these were the 5 things that I came up with. And so whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing it, you can always rely on these principles, I guess, to get you to the next step or to get you to a different step. And so the first one, and dare I say the most important one, is curiosity. So for me, for one, I always get bored, so I always have to find something new to feed that curiosity and discover something new. But yeah, I think curiosity is important to keep it interesting and to always, be challenging yourself and stuff like that. And so I know there's a lot of grad students in here, so probably a lot of you guys are already really motivated and um, know what you want and can figure out what you want, but you can always choose a different path or choose a different career or just try something new, or within your field of study, take a little sidebar and explore something different. Um, and so the next step, I guess, in this pattern, there's really no order. You can go any way you want, but clarity is also really important. So getting specific about what you want, what you like, what you're interested in. And clarity can also be what you don't like. And I think that's equally as important. And especially when you're not sure about what you want, knowing what you don't want can help you by process of elimination. Um, And for me, I knew that I didn't want to end up in a job that I dreaded or end up in a job where I would be stagnant. And I knew I didn't want to end up in a job where I wouldn't be able to learn. And so using those things to guide me have, I guess, over time presented me with opportunities. And I've also created opportunities for myself with that. And so the next one, creativity. The creativity, I think it's can go partly with curiosity, but I specifically chose this picture because we have the really artsy side on one side and the kind of analytical side on the other side. And I think both the traditionally creative stuff, but also the technical stuff can be a way to, um, for example, everyone's research projects. That's a way to be creative and teach yourself um, through research and stuff like that. And whether it's arts or something, technical or reading papers or just getting creative about what you're learning. So that can be podcasts or going to talks or reading something new, or just again keeping the creativity with the curiosity is always good. Um, and so then the next one is community, and this one has been really important for me since the very beginning. So like I talked about, I did the IFT scholarship. That was a great way for me to network and get to know people, get to meet people. I got to meet students from all over the country and owners and people in the industry from all over the country as well. And in starting out in the wine industry, I pursued the Texas Hill Country Wineries Scholarship. And so that was a similar type organization, but in the Texas wine industry. And also with that scholarship, I got to attend the trade show for free. So again, I was able to network and get myself in front of a lot of people who would now I know them very well. And that was just another step in like trying to get to the right place and stuff like that. And so more recently, my community has been building Grafted and engaging the community that way and offering events and resources. And my community is also Explore Oeno, the people that I bring on the trips. And it's all about like, making those connections and connecting with people who have shared interests and values and even different interests and values, but just expanding, because the more people you know, the more opportunities there are, and never hurts to make those connections. And you never know, one day you may need something from someone, and uh, having relationships is good. So, um, and then consistency. So this one's important to continue your work and continue to work hard, and um, especially like consistency at the end. And once you've kind of gone through this thing, like, and you've kind of mastered something, so to speak, come back to being curious and continue this path. And what else did I have there? Well, yeah, I mean, just do the hard work. Like I'm sure most of you know, there's no real tricks or ways around it. Like you just got to keep showing up and got to keep your eye on, you know, the principles and values that are guiding you. Um, be patient. That's one thing that I have to remind myself of a lot. I'm often not very patient, and I like to just, you know, do the two or three things and then you know, expect the quick result, but that's not always how it works. And so um and with, you know, using principles like this, or the principles that I had for myself, these are ways for you to kind of set yourself up for success no matter what you're doing or where you're going. Or, you know, say you end up doing something and a couple years into it you realize you don't like it, but if you've set yourself up along the way, it's easy to make that switch. um, and just, yeah, be willing to be flexible, build transferable skills, and, you know, everything will always work out. And you can, again, once you've positioned yourself for whatever kind of movement, the changes are easy. The changes don't become hard at that point. And one that's not up here, but I would say is equally as important, if not more, is confidence. That's kind of the one that, well, yeah, I didn't put it on here, but definitely don't forget that. And especially when you're networking and whatnot, you know, putting yourself in front of people and being proud of your work and sharing your work and marketing yourself in a way that people, you know, it's one thing to just meet someone, but if people know your story and know what you're working on and are, you know, they'll show curiosity for that as well, and you can form those stronger connections that way. Um, and yeah, that's kind of it. That's me in a nutshell. I have my contact info here if you're interested, and I also shared some resources here that have been impactful for me. So some but yeah. Sorry. Oh, the 9111. Yeah. I do not have a podcast. That is something that I would like to do in the future, but my plate's pretty full at this moment, so give me a couple of years. I've noticed I'm kind of on this like 2-year cycle of things, so maybe in a couple of years that'll come about. But I don't have a blog, but I do send out a newsletter through Explore Oeno that you can sign up for on my website. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. The newsletter, I like the newsletter for pictures. Yeah. So yeah. Questions?
What was your favorite class here?
Um, my my favorite, ooh, I have a few. So actually, before I was in food science, I was a biology major, and I took biology for biology majors with, oh my gosh, what, I don't even remember his name, but he had like crazy hair and like didn't use the textbook, and his zipper was always down and he always had sweat stains. Um, that was my freshman year biology class. I really loved that one. I loved food science, just 101, because we got to cover everything, and that's when I was like really interested and just like hungry and no pun intended, wanted to learn it all. And then I really loved sensory sensory with Dr. Miller, yeah. And I love Dr. B's class too. I liked all of them. Yeah.
It's a good thing you didn't take an economics course. It would have changed your life entirely.
Oh, I did, and that's the only class that I got a C in. Yeah. That was not my thing. Not my thing at all.
so many different things. You have done so many things in these 8 years. What has, whether it's a course or an experience or something that drives you?
I just, whenever I went into college, so I have an older sister, and she was like, don't leave. Like, she was like, this is going to be the best time. Like, make the most of it. And I think that's really what I set out to do is, I was involved with clubs and organizations, and I did the internships, and I just wanted to do like I always want to do everything, which is kind of a problem, but that was really it, is I wanted to do everything. I wanted to like try all the different things, and especially, I mean, I was fortunate I knew like what I was interested in and kind of the direction I wanted to go. So then once I had that clarity, I was then able to like explore things within that. And um, I'm also a really big planner, so I feel like I had everything like planned out from the beginning of just, well, not everything specifically, but I knew I wanted to do internships. I knew I wanted to do a study abroad. And then just kind of having that, I guess, more focus and stuff, it was easier to find those more specific things for me. And then I love to travel, and so wine was also attractive to me in the sense that it offered a lot of opportunity to travel, and um, so yeah, that was also important to me.
Do you think women are underrepresented in the Texas wine industry?
Yes and no. There are a lot of women in the Texas wine industry.
That's been my impression.
Yes, there are a lot of women in the wine industry, but I think um, maybe voices aren't always heard as loudly. So we're definitely here, and we're definitely doing a lot, and um, doing well at it, I would say too. But I think there's just kind of some like historically, stuff like that. Um, but we're definitely here. There's a lot of women, especially on the hospitality side and business administration side. And I mean, there's plenty of us growing grapes and making wine as well.
At the risk of having somebody hear this that shouldn't hear it, what do you think that it's going to take for the Texas wine industry to jump its reputation up amongst the top two or three? Education.
Yeah.
You have people that think that it's not good.
Yeah.
All that means is they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. We were having this conversation earlier with some of the grad students. Yeah, I was,
Talking about it all the time. They've been trying to figure out how to
yeah.
jump above Virginia or whoever else
Yeah.
is in third or fourth place. Virginia does it with people, Virginia and New York. What about the deal with Australia moving to California and taking over, and all the, not all, many of the leading winemakers in California are now Australia trained.
Oh,
Are we coming more like Australia? You were down there in Australia and New Zealand, so do you feel that same movement is coming up here from down there?
not particularly. But I think, um, I mean, I would actually hope that this is probably not the answer you're looking for, but I would actually hope that more young winemakers and people looking to get into the industry take advantages of opportunities like what I did learning in other regions and bringing that knowledge back to Texas to help bring up.
Here's another train of thought thing.
Yeah.
Many years, Bordeaux, Burgundy, Alsace, Tuscany was the big deal.
Mhm.
That's no longer the case.
Mhm.
You guys from Australia, New Zealand, and California have shifted the leadership to the new. You're part of the new
Yes.
wine world.
Yeah.
And the main labels in Europe are okay. But the European, not the wine label, they are really suffering. They're going bankrupt.
Like, where do you mean?
So you have,
Just anywhere else besides Europe?
and Bordeaux,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
good forever.
Right,
All
right.
the main labels are okay.
Yes.
It's not those guys we're talking
Right.
about.
The smaller
90% of the
producers.
production is just smaller
Yeah.
people. The new deal is with you and all those people from Australia, New Zealand, and California, and Washington, and Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
See what they do with the current.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did have a little bit of a,
So my question is more on the production side. I like growing plants, so I'm
Uh-huh.
always enamored by seeing the actual vineyards and things like that. I still appreciate the winemaking.
Yeah, thanks.
How, of course, you gotta appreciate. Are there any places that you've been that you were kind of enamored by or thought that they had a really interesting production practice, like totally organic, or they had I don't know, interesting field practices to you? Like something that stood out, or was everything kind of the same?
I mean, it just shocks me that this is not revolutionary whatsoever, but just knowing how difficult it is to grow grapes in Texas, just seeing these other wine regions that they don't really have to do all that much. And it's just like, it just appears and it's like, wow, that must be so nice and so relaxing. And, so, I mean, that's probably not what you were looking for, but just that, there's so many challenges to growing here in Texas. And so, um, yeah, nothing revolutionary whatsoever, but I'm always interested to learn what other people are up to and stuff like that. So, yeah, yes.
My question kind of ties into both of those last ones, but you've been all over the world, make wine all over the world, you've done lab analysis all over the world. Right? You're, from what all you've seen, in terms of fruit quality of what we can produce here,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say we need to focus on in the vineyard to improve on fruit quality?
That's okay. Um,
what has happened from 1990 to 2010?
I'll get back to you.
We have had so much technological improvement,
Mm-hmm.
cold fermentation, cultured yeast, filtration, all of those things have impacted so that those things have helped you. And you follow me?
Mm-hmm.
It has helped bring some of the lower people up to some of the traditionally, I'm the best. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all,
Yeah, the
you
wineries.
can go to the grocery store here is HEB. You can
Right.
go to the grocery store at HEB. They have 400 labels. All of those wines are drinkable.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? 30 years ago, half of them
Yeah.
were drinkable. So the whole industry has got.
Yeah. I think for here in Texas, it's kind of back to that same answer of education is like there's some people just don't know what they don't know, right? Like they're growing grapes and they're doing it, but um there's I sometimes see these gaps with growers and just simply not knowing how to mitigate issues or even knowing like what issues to look out for. And so I think it's we're still in that development period, and so providing that education and see like just exposure to various vineyards, how we do these like vineyard days or grower days or stuff like that, and just especially the people who are just starting out and who are a lot smaller and maybe got into it as like a hobby, and just that's like so scary to me that anyone's doing that, but yeah, just constantly providing that education and also I think from an education standpoint too, like sometimes I go to events or conferences or whatever, and there's an unfortunate truth that people are talking about stuff that is at such an elementary level that even if we're not like there yet, we need to be talking about stuff that's like 5, 10 steps ahead of us so that we can be thinking on that level and be preparing for those types of things. Not everyone knows that wines in Texas have high pH. Like we don't need to talk about that anymore. Everybody knows that. And if you don't, someone should and will tell you. Like that's, like I think we need to step up with some of that education and be sharing, issues that, the things that we think are like the big scary issues. Like people from all over the world have been dealing with that stuff for ages. So, let's think of it like that way. Yeah. Yes.
So most wineries operate with protocols just to streamline the harvest season because there's so much going
Mhm.
on. Has it been fun to create your own protocols now as a head winemaker, or do you see yourself really deviating from what you've learned within the William Chris family brand, or
Mhm.
how are you creating Uplift as a
Yeah.
subset of
Yeah.
your
Yes. So to answer your question, yes, it has been fun. That's probably like one of the most fun parts is getting to um, create those protocols and just design things like in a way that works. And, I get to try, I can do small experiments and I do have a lot of creative freedom in that sense. But also with Uplift, I'm just working with one specific site, and even at that site, there's so much vintage variation. I mean, in Texas, all around, there's a lot of vintage variation. So sometimes changing those protocols is out of necessity. So again, it's always kind of like it's like a fun, creative challenge, but it's usually in response to, oh, I have this issue, how am I going to fix it type of thing. So it's a fun challenge, and yeah. But yes, that is, yeah, I do a lot of that. And now, especially now that the growing season's begun, it's just constant like taking mental notes so that I have enough information to then make like the informed decisions once the fruit gets into the winery and stuff like that.
the second question?
Yeah.
I like different topics. So I know as students, it's really fun to think about winemaking as this illustrious job. But understand that as the winemaker, you're the head of the winery, so you're now having to make a lot of business execution
Mhm.
decisions and think about the cost of chemicals and how you
Mhm.
start to run out of it mid-season
Yeah.
and have to make calls. Do you wish we had a class to also help inform the business side of what it is to be a winemaker and make those hard decisions? Or should we start thinking about it?
Yeah, I think that would definitely be helpful. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have more of that type of knowledge. Also, like marketing and stuff like that. That's huge. And yeah, marketing, accounting, it's really necessary. Fortunately, our company is large enough to where I don't really have to do too much of that. But any small winery owner, they have to do everything. They're the winemaker, they're the marketer, they're the accountant. They do everything, and um, it's definitely a lot to juggle and a lot to get right because you don't want to mess it up. Yeah.
Your journey, you talk a little bit about the mentors in the wine industry and the impact they had on you.
Hmm.
And then the second question is your favorite wine and snack.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll answer that one first because it's easier. My favorite doesn't matter what wine, but my favorite pairing is wine and potato chips. Because you can always find like you can pair different wines with different flavored chips, and it's easy. It's available for everyone. Yeah. So remember that. Um, yeah, the salt and the fat. That's all you need for pairing. That's all you have to remember. Um, sorry, it was who or what or about mentors? Yeah. So, well, starting out, I actually met Chris Brundrett, who's one of the owners of William Chris. I met him here in this room, in this class. It was in Dr. B's class, and he came to do he came to do a presentation like this. And at the time, I actually knew I wanted to work at William Chris that following summer. I just hadn't made the connection yet. And so at the end of the talk, I really just went up to him and introduced myself and was like, I want to work for you. I've been to the winery a few times, this and that. And so, yeah, set up an interview a few months later and ended up getting the job. But he, of course, has been influential in my career, has provided a lot of opportunity, and has also allowed me to do all of my side projects that I'm always doing. Dr. B has really been influential, and we've stayed in touch over the years. And I know the list is way longer than that. I mean, the people that I met and worked with in New Zealand, they've been influential. A friend who he's also in the industry, but Chris introduced me to him, and he's the one who made the connection for me to go to New Zealand. He had done harvest over there, and so he made that introduction for me. But yeah, there's always just like these different people along the way. And I was telling someone earlier, like the wine industry is really small and it's really close knit, and people are really willing to help. So if I don't know someone, I know someone who knows someone. And it's really like just that, just a couple of degrees of separation away from meeting the person or getting the job or getting the interview or whatever. So that is very helpful too, especially when you know what you're after. You can just talk to people and make those connections fairly easily. So, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe one more question if you have time. If not, wrap it up.
Great job.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Well,
This is
appreciate
so
you for coming out
cute.
today
Thank
for
you
our
so
seminar.
much. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, we
I'll
do
give
have
you this.
Spirited Learning, so y'all are welcome to come to
Oh,
Spirited
yeah.
Learning as well. I'm assuming
I'm
you're coming
presenting my wines at Spirited Learning, so you should all come to taste.
to have help with
Yeah.
us over there for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Spirited Learning will be fun.
Yeah.